Good evening, everyone. Welcome, everyone to tonight's topic. One that no one's actually ever reported on, mainly because those that know the stories, that I witnessed this, for there's been many factors and many reasons why they've not come forward until now to speak. What is the new faces of the sleeper cells? Back in the 50s, 60s, we used to have the Russian sleeper cells. But it was, it was common knowledge. What hasn't been common knowledge after 9/11. I know we all can remember where we were, what we were doing, but what is not discussed those who were incarcerated when it happened in prison. It is some of their stories that I will be sharing in the videos to come. Tonight's just going to be more of a dialogue of what the new sleeper cells are about. And I will be, in the weeks and months to come, I will be adding to it with other people's stories, those who were locked up when the event happened, those that I witnessed, the things that I'm going to be talking about. And for many, it's a touchy subject because a lot of things transpired after 9/11, the 9/11 Patriot Act, which affected anyone that was incarcerated. They were all labeled as terrorists. All their rights taken away, even to this day, even after they get out. Many come to find out when they go thinking they got all their freedoms back after they go to court and have to get their Second Amendment rights back, the rights to vote. Free. But when they go to get passports, they find that they are barred from flying because they are labeled as terrorists. But yet the true terrorists are among us. Many of us still remember that tragic morning of 9/11. As our country forever changed within those memories, we can tell where we were and what we were doing, regardless of what you believe. And what transpired from that day, we can still see the effects and the growth of new branches of terrorists and policies to fight it. Some of these policies put in place affected Americans as well. We have never come forward with this story on us. Yet for the most part, we haven't seen what is happening in Europe, in the Middle East, and for many, the only face of terrorism is the Middle Eastern Muslims. Only now, in the last few years, have we seen a different face of terrorists, non-Arabs who have been converted to Islamic radicalism and go out and do terrorist activities in their home countries. But this is just one side of the coin because there's yet another group. One that is and has been recruited and trained right here in our own backyards. And nobody's the wiser because they look and talk like you, or the person you work with, the mailman or the paper boy, and who have never visited or trained in any of the terrorist camps overseas. This is a new face of sleeper cells, one that looks like any American and will act just like you would, doing everyday things. You will not see them speaking Arabic or reading from the Quran. You will just see them and even friends till the time they are called upon, and then it may just be too late. This is a group I wish to bring to light and share my story and others who watch this unfold before our own eyes. We cannot speak for what has happened in other countries, but what has been happening here in America since 9/11. That can only be told by the eyewitnesses that watched this play out day after day. For me, it was 11 years, and for others, shorter periods of time. But all with their own stories, as well as a couple who are still watching this play out to this very day, and can also testify that nothing is being done about it, nor is it being talked about until now. First, the reason why no one has talked about this. First is the 9/11 Patriot Act bill, which labeled all incarcerated felons as terrorists, no matter what the crime, and many of us have found ourselves on no-fly lists. And not to mention the fact, when you do get out, depending on the state you live in, for me, Ohio, which has a new law which states that you do your time, you're still going to be on probation. You can be sent back for up to half your original sentence, which is unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court has ruled as such. But that doesn't seem to get the law changed, and many end up back in prison on some violation before their court cases is heard by the Supreme Court. Second, which this should be first, but it's not. The simple fact is, people only care about what we did and not what we have become. Try to find a job in this day of age being an ex-felon. All people remember is what you did, and that you will more likely end up back in the system. After all, the system is designed for that. And systems are a revolving door designed to keep you in the system. They make money off each person incarcerated. Like $1 billion industry. We are forever and always remembered by that one moment in our lives, no matter how much you have changed or reformed. Ask yourself, would you believe anything that comes from a felon's mouth? Sorry guys, but the majority of people, once they found out you were an ex-felon, they tend to take what you say as someone that cannot be trusted and treat a second-class citizen that should have no rights at all. Even for me, I don't like talking about it just because of how I've been judged and the things I've witnessed while in there. Which leads me to say this. This story used to be told everywhere. People do change, people make mistakes. Mistakes that some will have to pay for the rest of their lives. But what was witnessed inside the prison after 9/11 was much more shocking. It changed the ideal and concept of what homegrown terrorism is. And the fact that we've seen very little of it. But yet again, maybe we've seen more than we realize. If you look at some of the organizations and riots and protest groups that are going on, many of them were incarcerated, that are acting on hidden orders. If you ask most people, what is the face of terrorism? They will tell you, as I stated, Arabic, Middle Eastern, radical Muslims. But here in the United States, there's yet a different face. That is white, black, Mexican, Asian, young, old, educated, and not educated. what I saw and witnessed for 9 years. Like many, I can remember where I was and what I was doing when the plane hit the Twin Towers. I was 2 years in on an 11-year prison sentence. I had already watched 2 people die right in front of me, and a couple of years later 2 more. But nothing prepared me for the fatal morning. I was on my way to commissary when a friend passed me and said a plane flew into the World Trade Center. Just thought he was joking till I got back to the dorm when I saw everyone all crowded together in both TV rooms, watching it unfold right before the first tower went down. The whole prison was put on lockdown, and the guards went around and locked up all the non-American Muslims. And mind you, this was before the news announced it was a terrorist attack. Everyone was in shock and couldn't believe what they had just seen happen. And let me tell you from first-hand experience that almost everyone in the dorm was pissed off and couldn't believe what they were seeing. So yes, even prisoners are very patriotic. And why wouldn't they be? After all, they are Americans, many of which just made a bad choice in life. Let me tell you this as well. Many of you could see the fear in their eyes as well. When they finally lifted the lockdown, we were all back in front of the TVs again, still trying to comprehend what had taken place on that day. As with the rest of the Americans, that day changed even our lives, but even more so with the weeks and months to come, and affects us even to this day because we also became labeled terrorists thanks to the Patriot Act bill. But that's not what this is about, other than it may be used to shut us up and what keeps anyone from talking about it. Let me get back on track here. A couple weeks later, they released almost all the non-American Muslims from the hole, and a couple they rode out to a close security camp, and nothing else was ever said about that, at least not to my knowledge. What we started to witness after that was 2 different groups of Muslims, the radical ones and the ones that valued Americans' freedoms and what they believed Islam stood for, which was peaceful form and more spiritual, no different from any other religion here in the U.S. And slowly the 2 factions separated from each other. And what transpired from that is what we will discuss here. The radical Muslims started to go after the young and weak, the ones that would get themselves into debt, or the ones you knew would get turned out. And they wouldn't step in, and they would step in and take them under their wing. Protection with a price. And they would start to convert them to their teachings, them speaking Arabic and reading right from the Quran, and teaching them to hate anyone that wasn't of the same belief, even the non-radical Muslims. In the beginning, it was always the ones they perceived as vulnerable and easy to manipulate. But even this trend changed over the years as the Patriot Act came into place, and the more easier it was for them to find harder criminals that would follow them. I need to make this very clear before I continue any farther. We are talking about Americans, white, Asian, Mexican, any race or color did not matter. And if you think about it, many of the ones they converted had a good chance of never coming back to prison and would get out and blend right into normal society. But if you talk to them, group, you would never know they were converted radical Muslims unless you knew them or saw them at one of the tables with the group. This was done in a way that was calculated. And this went on day after day. I watched it for 9 years. 2 of my friends are still incarcerated, who will also share their story in the weeks and months to come. I have still said is still playing out to this day, and nothing is being done with inside the prisons. Not the gang coordinators aren't stepping in. The guards look away. What they were taught to do was traditionally we wouldn't see. They were taught not to pray in public or where they would be seen. They were taught never to speak in Arabic, only amongst fellow brothers. They were taught to hate. They were taught how to blend in society. They were forced. I say forced. They were manipulated into what college programs were still left in the prison systems to educate them, so they had a better chance of getting out and blending in to organizations and better jobs. Now I know many of you will say, well, you're not going to believe it. Why would you? Because we really haven't seen anything yet in the United States. But many of us believe it's a matter of time before it happens. And many wish to now speak. Many of us have fears of the repercussions that may come from this. Because some of our real names are known. That is why I have chosen to start this video series from my perspective and my perspective only. I wish to protect my sources. I wish to make sure that they can tell their story in a safe environment. Because we don't know where, we may be persecuted from, we may not. We don't know who might come to contact us asking us for our information. So for the time being, I am going to keep my sources and their identities to myself. I will let them speak their faces or their names until I feel to do so. What people don't realize is from the things we've watched in the recent months and past year, protests, groups like Antifa, other groups, I've recognized a few people. Let's keep it real. A convict, prison guard, staff, they will tell you on the spot who's been locked up and who hasn't. It's just, most of us, we have nothing better to do besides put ink on our body. Well, here's a little secret about prison ink. Most of it's homemade because you're going to pay a lot of money for real ink, even if there's even real ink inside the cans. In the cans. So, what separates our ink from street ink? Street ink has a bluish hue to it. Even the black ink has a bluish hue as it ages. Prison ink is black. It's one of the blackest inks you can get. It never fades. Bluish tint behind. And I've seen protesters with the inks, prison inks. I've seen prison tattoos from gang markings. Me and a couple people that will be also sharing their stories sat back and talked about this, things we've seen, things that we've recognized. I mean, when you have sleeper cells, there's many different forms. Not all of them are called up, put in positions to infiltrate. Some maybe just to make money for other organizations. Others maybe to actually commit terrorist acts. The scary part of all this is on the day of age, we can get our tattoos removed. We can easily blend in. We can never hide our records. We can't hide. But many of the ones they targeted in the beginning were people that would blend in, people that you wouldn't expect of ever being a convicted criminal. Like I said, they preyed more on the young and the weak. And that's exactly what they did. They preyed on them. Because the truth is, prison is a real monster. Like I said, I watched 4 people die right in front of me. I was sitting at a card table one day, 3 pieces, and dude falls down, dead. Freak accident. Freak. That's what it was. Dude had an aneurysm. Plus the environment, you're always watching over your back. Aware. You're constantly in survival mode. Because at any given time, anything can pop off. There's no such thing as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It just can happen anywhere. In a sense, it honed our senses to things like this. You know, even it got to the point where almost every group on the compound, would have people watching this group. Regardless, because the prison system, you have gangs, you have affiliations, you have the AB, Aryan Nation, then you have your folks, Blood, Crips, Mexican Mafia. You're locked up with real people, real killers. But yet, depending on the classification of the camp you were in, close, medium, or minimum, you had more access to stuff with the lower your security was, which made it easier for them in lower security prisons to recruit. I cannot remember dude's name. Like I said, everybody in prison goes by a nickname. Whether it be Red, Smiley. I mean, you guys get the point, I think. Everybody has a nickname. Because in prison, you're identified as convict, inmate, but you're identified as your number, your prison number. That is your identification. What else? Back to what I was saying. I don't want to get off topic. There was a Muslim. He was radicalized before prison, from my understanding. He earned the nickname Osama. And believe me, the dude made the prison through AR laws, petitioning. I mean, he filed a bunch of paperwork to force them to use their aliases. He chose the name Osama. And on his ID badge, because at the time I was working in the library doing the computers. And we got in an argument with him one day about it because he had to use his real name. And he said, he don't. He will not be recognized by it. And he basically made the staff that ran that library call the warden and captain down. And he showed them the paperwork to where we had to recognize him as Osama. And it started to be a trend from there, especially more with the radicals. The other ones, they never pushed the issue. They wanted to do their time, be peaceful. And I got to know, like I said, I was affiliated with everyone. I'm a natural chameleon. I can blend in to most environments. I had friends that were in all organizations. Which, was nice. I also had a friend. I'm not going to mention his name because I'm still trying to contact him. Because he was, in a sense, our insider. A real good friend. And somebody that was able to blend in. I mean, the stuff that he came back would tell us blew our minds. The fact that they were planning to radicalize them, but not have them go out and do things. The fact that they were talking about creating these sleeper cells. The fact that it wasn't just happening here in Ohio, but in every prison here in the United States. Like I said, it's a multi-billion-dollar operation, the prison industry. Can you imagine how many people from 9/11 to 2017 who may have been recruited, converted, and radicalized inside the prison system to become sleeper cells. Just the idea alone, just the thought of it is scary. Because, I mean, honestly, if you don't have prison tats, you can blend into any surrounding. And if people don't know how to recognize prison tats, I think you would never know. Because I know people on the streets that make their own inks that will match prison ink. Because especially with tribal inks, because it retains black. The scary part was it was just within a few months after 9/11 to watch how fast they were able to grow. And right before everyone's eyes. By the time people really caught on to what was going on, their numbers were too much for anybody to do anything. They were a force to be reckoned with inside the prison, but yet they kept to themselves, so nobody bothered them. I mean, occasionally one of the leaders of the non-radical Muslims would try to talk to Osama and tell him this is not what we're about, this is not what our religion's about. And they would argue and debate the philosophical sides of the different religions of Islam. I remember one day I was with the one leader who, I've been doing time with. He was well-educated man, but somebody that understood and respected other people's values and beliefs, and wasn't scared to explain his religion and his ideas and beliefs and what he thought about the radicalism, how the genocides, the radical Islam has committed genocide on other Islamists, the Sunnis and such, to the point where a lot of it was genocide, to where, what is left of Islam is almost all radical. And he had, Osama had a couple of his friends. I want to say something. I can't remember what I said. But he ended up calling me a Kufi. And wow, I mean, it made Kufi, I'm an infidel. I'm more so of an infidel to them than Christians. And yeah, that didn't go over too well with the person I was with. In fact, he smacked dude in the face and told him to watch his mouth and show respect. And he said a few other things that I'm not going to repeat. I'm trying to keep the cuss words out of this. I've asked people the past couple months, because this story's been weighing on me and a few others. We've talked about it. I've asked a few people. I've decided, well, what's the best question to ask people? Let's ask them, when they picture a terrorist, what face do they picture? Would they picture an American as a terrorist? where they picture their mailman, their paper boy, their doc, well, not doctor, because here's another something that needs to be understood. Ex-felons can never hold an office of trust. Once you are become incarcerated, like I said, you lose. While in prison, you have no rights. But when you get out, what isn't told to you, they force you to go to court. And most people, we struggle to find jobs because nobody wants to hire a felon. So we can't afford to get an attorney, to go to court, to get our Second Amendment rights, to get our voting rights back, to get our constitutional rights back and Bill of Rights. Many of us that were under the new law, we were lucky that people put our names on lists and went to the Supreme Court, because what the new law is, it used to be what the feds used, that the feds themselves deemed unconstitutional. Now, I don't know how many other states run the same law as Ohio, but that's Ohio law. You do your time, you can be sent back up to half your time. And like me, I did my time day for day. Old law, if you did your time and you maxed it out, you walked out of the prison a free man. Under the new law, you do not. If you do your whole time, you are released and put on probation. I was lucky. Not that I'm not going to say I was lucky, because the camp I was at, trust me, it was designed to break a person. If you had long time, you did not want to be at the camp I was in, because you had nothing but time to think. There was nothing to do. I mean, there was things to do, but not like a bigger camp. And you still had your hustles. You had what little sports. But as the years went, they started stripping even the education out of the prison systems. They don't want the prisoners educated, rehabilitated. They want them to come back because they make money every time they come back. The state gets paid per head. Like I said, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's probably one of the biggest jokes in America, which is another reason why a lot of people don't want to talk about this, because, I mean, there's people in there that shouldn't have been in there, that should have been maybe in mental hospitals or in drug rehabs. I mean, the time I was locked up, it was when Oxycontin really started coming out. And, man, the people who was getting locked up, they shouldn't even been there, doing 2, 4 to 5 years on drug charges. These were ideal people to be recruited, because they're going to be a quick turnout. Not everyone wants to be considered a second-class citizen. Not everyone wants to be labeled as a terrorist just because I made a mistake. Some made mistakes. Some of us deserve to be there. That's just the irony and sad truth of things. But most people, when you ask them, what's a terrorist? They're not going to say their neighbor. Why? He's white. He goes to church. This is what they were teaching them to do. Integrate and become members of society. Act like society. Find a church. Join it. Go to it. A ball team. This is how they were being taught. I mean, we could be talking about millions by now. I mean, that nobody really knows what they're doing or when they're going to be called in to do jobs or what their jobs are. I know one person that can answer that. I'm still trying to contact him. But I also know other people have other stories that they witnessed themselves, that they've seen firsthand. The brainwashing that they did, I mean, that's what it was. It was brainwashing. They brainwashed some of these kids. But like I said, as the years went on, the laws started getting passed, and you started calling a person that got locked up for a drug offense a terrorist. He shouldn't have been in prison to begin with. I mean, for possession of a few pills, he should have been in a rehab. And wow, I mean, it was just amazing. It was, I mean, amazing to watch this stuff transpire. I mean, not amazing, it was scary. It was unbelievable what it was. Like I said, what was more unbelievable is just the blind eye that was turned to it. I mean, occasionally you might hear a couple CEOs talking about it. But they said, like they said, there was nothing they could do because they weren't causing no trouble, causing violence inside the prison. They would just gather and speak in Arabic, read from the Quran. And then they would go in separate little groups throughout the compound where they were taught other things. How to infiltrate, how to become a sleeper inside of this society that would overlook them. You know, I think a lot of the fears were, fears I had. Who's going to believe us if we bring you this story? I tried to reach out to a few people to help us with this. Especially concerning a couple people that are still incarcerated. I don't want to get them in any real trouble, nor do I want them to be harassed for during the time they're there for speaking the truth and telling their story. So I do need to find someone that actually has reporter credentials that would be willing to go to the prison and interview them, preferably with a lawyer, so being of the conversation that's taking place when it can be done in a private room. Like I said, I want to protect all those that speak on this. It's not something I want to do over the phone system, because the phone system, every conversation is recorded and it can be shut off at any time during the call. I mean, it's just the way of life. Especially my one friend. He's maxing out at 25 years. So pro board he basically told the pro board, screw him. He'll walk it off. I mean, why not? They flopped him up until he had 5 years left. Better to walk out a free man than on parole. Guess is the way he looked at it after doing all that time. I mean, the real issue, getting their stories and letting you guys hear it for yourself. Judged for their crimes, especially many of them that have been out, no longer on parole, that are part of everyday society. They're trying to live their lives the best they can under the circumstances. They're always judged. When people find out, oh, you're ex-felon? Yeah, it's just the way it goes. We're used to it. I mean, people may know us, but as soon as they find out, they view us in a different light. Which is one of the many reasons why no one's come forward with this story yet. Why no one wants to talk about it. Especially, if they've got family in a good community. Because many of us have to move. Especially if we're from small towns. People never forget what we did. They always remember us for what we did, not who we've become. Which has been one of the hardest parts for me. Because the truth is, I was a monster. I deserve what I got. That's just the facts. Not ashamed of it because I ain't that person no more. Never want to be that person. Like I said, prison broke me. Now I won't even get in the car without putting a seatbelt on. And then I got out in '09. Haven't been in trouble with law, haven't had a speeding ticket, haven't had no tickets, no run-ins with the police. But yet, I'm still judged because I live in a small area, a small community that still remembers the crap I did when I was a kid. We all have our own. We've all made mistakes, some of us greater mistakes than others. And it gives us a new meaning and a way to look at things. We know we're less likely to judge others because of the way we've been judged. And like me, I can speak probably candidly for most of them. Revisiting our past. We don't like revisiting those days, those years we spent. Because there's really no good memories. Like I said, you're always in survivor mode. You're always watching over your back. That's one of the hardest things when you get out. Walking into like a Walmart. You're jumpy, you're edgy because of all the people. You're watching their back, thinking you hear somebody. It takes a while to get over. I don't know how many people are going to watch this series. I don't know how many people are even going to watch this video. The fact is, there is a new face in terrorism here in the United States, and it's the sleeper cells. But yet, some of them aren't sleeper cells. I've seen the tats, the Antifa crowds. They're blending into all the groups that are protesting. We all know anybody that's studied anything dealing with wars and stuff, the key tactic is divide to conquer. Cause division, cause chaos. The more you cause, the more destruction. It might not be physical property damage or anything like that. It's just the mental aspect. It's a psychological warfare that can be conducted. Then there's the other thing. How many of these that were radicalized inside the prison system just went out and recruited? These are the things that no one's talked about. Up until now. I know for many of you, I'm probably going to lose a few friends over this. Probably quite a few followers. But it's time that the truth is told. It's time that these people's stories are told. I just ask that you guys listen with open minds. Don't judge them by who they were. Judge them by who they've become. Productive members of society. And I ask that you guys think about what is being said in these videos to come and in this one. I mean, is it going to change the way we view things? I mean, it has me. But then again, I was there. I watched it unfold. I've watched it unfold even after being out. That's kind of what's made us want to talk about this and act and discuss this and tell our stories. You know, the 9 years that I watched these things unfold, I've watched their little radical group grow to become 300, 400, 500 by the time I left. But you also got to understand that even with that big a number, there was probably twice that has already was released and on the streets. Integrating into society. Hiding amongst you. Wolves in sheep clothing. Just waiting to be called upon to act and cause terror. You know, we get caught up in everyday things. We get caught up in the politics, who got elected. Don't look at maybe what's really going on right in front of our eyes. It has been going on in front of our eyes. The fact is, this threat is very real. And it's very sophisticated. You know, not all of us were saints. But many of us have reformed and become better people. Unfortunately, it took a huge mistake in our lives to reach that point of understanding and realize the fact that we needed to change, or this was going to be the rest, what our life was going to be for the rest of our lives behind bars. And that's what angered most of us even more watching this unfold. You know, most people think, well, prisoners, they're not patriotic. They don't care about America or Americans. That's not true. I witnessed that firsthand on 9/11. I watched fear in hardcore criminals, killers, murderers, people that you would never see or show fear. I've watched hardened criminals cry when the tower came down. And up until the Patriot Act came around, many of them would have volunteered to go overseas and fight. And they would have came back and did their time. Well, that sounds pretty patriotic to me, considering we owed a major debt to society over our soldiers. That's how 9/11 affected most of us that day. Like I said, it's not, my past is not a subject I like talking about. My past is lessons, though. Lessons that taught me to become the person I am today. It's been a long couple weeks for me. Memories to share with you guys. Opened up some old wounds as well. The fact that we didn't do anything about what was going on. The fact that this is just something that we just don't do anything about. Because in a sense, inside the prison, there's laws even amongst us convicts and inmates. You know, you kept to yourself. You didn't speak of the things you've seen or witnessed. Why? Well, because if you did, that could be you the very next day or while you were sleeping. I mean, the fact is, wow, I mean, to this day, I can't believe things I witnessed with this group, how they grew. You know, and really, we watched, but we never, I guess many of us never gave it much thought that they'd actually go out there and do anything. But we start seeing what's happening overseas in Europe, France, Britain, Germany. I mean, yes, for the most part, that is, like I said, we can't speak for other countries, but for the most part, that's still Eastern radical Islamists. But we've slowly seen over the years Americans converted over to the radical Islams, ones that have never been incarcerated, more open, more radical in their dealings, where this group, for the most part, has been quiet, just sleeping, a sleeping cell, waiting to be awakened and called upon and activated. I think that's the word I was looking for. But like I said, in the weeks to come, I will bring you other stories from other eyewitnesses, as well as adding more of my own things that I've seen and witnessed. But I thought it was important to get this out and do it for right now. Just my story. So, for those that watch this, please share it with others. Get this story out. Let people learn that there may be, not maybe, there is a real threat here in America. One that is, for the most part, unseen and unknown. You know, share this with people that you know will listen and take it to others. Because look, it's time that we shed light on this. Maybe by us coming forward, speaking what we witnessed, may curtail something that happens in the future. Or maybe it can put pressure on the prison systems to start enforcing the laws that are in place. Because I'll tell you, one of my closest friends got caught with it was just a section from, somehow they found, this group found a copy of the Antarctic cookbook in the library that was going to be thrown away. So they ripped up the cover and ripped up the sections and spread it out. Well, one person got shook down and got caught with it. That's when we really learned about the Patriot Act. Because they tried to charge him as a terrorist. Tried to write him out to a maximum security prison. But yet they wouldn't do this to these radical Muslims. They rather do it to a Satanist or a Christian who just happened to have a piece of the Antarctic cookbook. I mean, if anybody knows anything about that, most of the shit you'll find in it will kill you. It don't work. But like I said, they tried to charge him under the Patriot Act. He fought it. He had to fight it for 6 months, fight it from being administrative rode out to a maximum security facility. He had to fight that. Then he had to fight his AC bit. I mean, he finally won, but that was our first experience with the Patriot Act. And when he brought the paperwork, when he got out finally the hole, and he showed us all the paperwork and we read it, it taught us that we were no better than the terrorists out there in the eyes of our government, no matter what our crimes were. And like I said, there are people in there that should have never been seen the inside of a prison. They should have been in mental institutes, psychiatric care, or drug rehab, not in prison. And many of these people were converted because they were easy prey, easy victims at first. Like I said, later, it got more sophisticated. They start going after more educated people. But by then, everybody knew what the Patriot Act. So many of the inmates and prisoners were pissed off that our government classed us as terrorists, much like they classed our vets as terrorists. The NDAA bill, along with the Patriot Act, But yet, the part that still, to this day, will get many of us heated, they never, ever, in the 9 years that I witnessed, ever locked up a radical, converted, white, black, Asian, Mexican, the color did not matter. They went after them all. But none of them were ever locked up. None of them were ever harassed. They were allowed to go about and keep doing what they were doing. And from what I've been told, it's still going on to this day. Like I said, I can't fathom the numbers that may be out there. You know, like I said, I probably watched a good 1,000 to 2,000 in the 9 years. Be recruited, leave. And honestly, out of all of them, I may have seen 10 come back. The rest got out, never came back. Which means they're out there somewhere, doing who knows what, and nobody is the wiser, except for the ones that maybe no one will ever believe. Just because, they, in the eyes of society, we're second-class citizens with no rights. Our government's decreed that. The state of Ohio's decreed that. I mean, our state of Ohio is like this. It's in the top 5 of prisons in the world. And the revenue, like I said, they make off it is billions. It's no longer about rehabilitation. The Department of Rehabilitational Correctional Center is a lie. You only learn 2 things in prison. Become a better criminal, or the fear of God put in you so you never come back. And you will play hell trying to get out of the system. Like I said, it's a revolving door. It's meant to keep you in the system. Those few of us that get out of the system, we are lucky. Because we walked on eggshells. Doing everything we're told and doing everything in our power not to get put back in the system. Like I said, I got lucky. Supreme Court ruled on my case in 6 months. Not that I was going back, because it, like I said, it broke me. But this will give you guys something to think about for the videos to come. Guys, your feedback is welcome. Leave comments, I'll answer, or a couple of others will answer that we'll also be discussing on this, that, yeah, you guys will get to see the big picture as we go. And like I said, for anyone out there that would be interesting to help us with this, get this story out, I could use it. Like I said, this is something that I want done to make sure it's done right. And like I said, I can give you plenty of information that you can fact check for yourself and talk to other eyewitnesses. But I think for the most part, as soon as you mentioned prisons and convicted ex-felons, nobody wants to touch it. The impression I've got from the few people that I've asked. And not heard nothing back, so I took it up on myself just to run with this for right now until I find someone I can trust to bring in to help. And I know I've been gone for a little while, guys. I haven't posted any videos for a while. I'm working on a couple projects. This is my major project. It's kind of put everything on hold. But for those that enjoyed the Great American Deception, I am working on part 2 of that as well. I think you'll enjoy that because I'm doing it, interviewing people and asking them if they believe what is the American dream? Does it still even exist? And some of the recordings I've got from interviews, it is interesting to hear what they have to say. I was kind of shocked. But that's, like I said, that's going to be coming probably next month as I'm working on it. Right now, it's kind of, everything's on a back burner. This, after talking to, like I said, some of these eyewitnesses, people that I've known, some people I didn't know until recently, this has been weighing on their minds as well. And we just agreed it's time that we share this story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I know it's a little bit different from what I normally bring to you guys. Also, I'm been a little bit more open about myself, which is quite hard for me. Like I said, when it's dealing with my past, as it's going to be for a few other people's as well. But in the end, it's up to you guys to share this video, like it, and help us spread the word. This is a very important subject that needs covered. I wish you guys all a good night. And like I said, there'll be more videos on this series to come in the weeks and months that follows. So if you haven't subscribed, like me on Twitter. You got comments, questions, my contact information's in the description. You can find any of those links and message me from there. But you guys enjoy the weekend to come. Be safe. Peace out.